Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 24th of March, comes to you from London. And it's been a pretty busy week. We'll take a look at what's been happening with interest rates, yields, and bank stocks as we usually do. We'll take a look at energy, quite a good look at power and German power curves there. And so we'll try and run through everything in 10 minutes. Remember that I post this on chartstoday.com. You can just go to chartstoday.com and sign up there, and you'll get this a notification whenever this video is released. And occasionally I put it up on LinkedIn as well and on Twitter, so you can follow me there. So we start by looking at just what's been going on. Of course, we had the Bank of England decision yesterday, 1/4 point rise in rates, no big surprises there. But of course, the big story is the Federal Reserve, and they went up another 1/4%. We're seeing inflation falling in the US, not doing that in the UK. And the key thing we'll be watching each month, can we see rates and inflation converging, where actually inflation falls below the level of interest rates. So that's really what the Federal Reserve are hoping for. Still relatively high at around 6%, and really want to get back down to that target level around 2%. That's going to be quite a challenge. When you look at the blue chart here, we're in an inflationary environment, so really quite interesting. We keep an eye on that spread. Bond yields has been the thing in the market, and this inversion between the 2-year and the 10-year is something that a lot of people have been talking about. This, the weekly chart, is falling back a little bit at the moment, so that's a little bit of a relief, because this idea that shorter term money is more expensive than longer term money is what spooks the markets, and so that's certainly something to keep an eye on. Normally you would see around 200 basis points difference between those levels, and it's the reverse, so really quite a thing to watch there. The big news, of course, has been bank stocks. Here are the big four in America. We've got JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citigroup, and Wells Fargo. And here are the charts. These are indexed to 100 starting at the beginning of last year, and we see we're at 58.4. So that means we're down 42% on Bank of America. But most significantly, we're making new lows below that low that we saw in October, sinking lower yesterday. And this is just probably my number one concern for the US market is just watching these charts, and certainly Bank of America is one to keep a close eye on there. So let's look at the markets. Well, a lot of red on the screen today, so post those interest rate decisions, we're starting to take things into account. We're looking at the dollar first of all. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. And I'm running on multiple data services, so with Updata you can just configure it to run on your desktop on top of what you're already running. And of course the point and figure charts with the targets is a real powerful aspect. So we're seeing the euro down 0.5%, the dollar actually having a little bit of resurgence there, starting to break. The euro is actually starting to just hit some resistance there, so that's really quite key. Sterling has been at 123. We're falling back to 122 this morning, holding on to the uptrend on the short-term chart there, but not too far off falling through the cloud, and just seeing a little bit of resurgence there. And against the euro, sitting at 113.61, it's been pretty much just a slow deterioration there against the euro. Bitcoin was the news this week. It's really jumped up into the high 20s. We're seeing here we're 28,000. So looking very bullish on that medium-term chart, having found support on the cloud. Got a lot of work to do on the long-term chart. We've got this upside target to 50,000, and that's now in train. So really quite interesting that we're seeing crypto coming back to the fore. The futures on the Nasdaq, we're down 1/3% on the S&P, and on the Nasdaq E-mini down about 0.7%. So we are seeing markets off quite a bit there. FTSE future in the UK is down 1.5%. So again, not a great end to the week there. Interesting to see if we make a lower low. That will show up a bit more clearly on the lagging line there. But if we make a lower low below the cloud, that puts us back into medium-term bearish territory, and that would activate that downside target. So we've got to keep an eye on that as well. The DAX in Germany down 1.5%. So that's really quite key there. And we are just seeing that reversal away. Will we hold cloud support? That's going to be the key thing to watch. downside target activated, some 7.5% lower, and the short-term chart is where you're going to get the heads up. Japan was lower, Asia mostly lower, down about 2/3% across the board. Look at the Sensex in India, down 0.5%, and the Aussie market closing the week down just 0.2%, so not so bad there. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute, but the really big story this week has been gold. It's the one chart that has actually looked very bullish indeed. Here we see last week's move in gold. We've had a little bit of a doji forming here on the weekly candle, but the reality is we're getting near that 2000 level again. We've nudged it twice this week. Can we break it and hold it? We've got upside target here now to 23.46, and that is activated at the moment. So really quite key. If we close here today, we activate that target to 2,346. That would be a new high, of course. And we've got big targets to the upside there. So gold looking quite exciting. Silver also looking better, back above the $23 mark. Not looking quite as bullish as gold. And of course, if we look at US 10-year yields, we see we're down. We've sunk really lower this week from 3.6% to 3.3%. We've activated that downside target of 2.38 and 231. This big target at 9% will not come off the chart until we move right back below the level where it was given. But interestingly, we're seeing the medium-term targets coming off. There was 1 to 5%. That's gone. And we're seeing targets now down into the low threes. So the market is seeing the end of Fed tightening. Whether that's the case or not, that's what the market is currently pricing in. Now look at the energy mix. This is one of my favorite charts. This is German power with the curves from EOX Live overlaid on the chart. So here we see the history. This is where we said when German power was at 50, we said it was going to double to 100. That's what it's done. And this is where you want to be buying forward. That's the forward curve, how it looked 2 years ago. And a lot of people will be wishing they were buying power into the future at those levels. It looks like settling at around 100 at the moment. And notice how this moves up when the price moves up. When we were 6 months ago, you were looking at 140 euros further out. This is going right out into 2030. So really interesting to see how the front of the curve does have an impact on the back of the curve with that uncertainty. So we are getting to territory where buying forward at these levels, although that feels really hard to do historically, it may well be that this is as good as it gets again. Now, looking at Brent crude, we nudged the $70 mark. We've actually come back again. We've got some downside targets kicking in. We were looking quite strong today on Brent crude when we put the price out. Here's our report this morning with all the trends and targets. We got lower on US nat gas. We're bullish on emissions with the targets. These went out at 8 o'clock this morning. The picture will change. These are 1 minute targets. We just call it for the day. If you want these reports, just let me know and we'll sign you up. But the key thing is here that we are seeing just the market deteriorating slightly since that opened. So we're seeing Brent crude down 1% and US nat gas actually starting to reverse a little bit there. We've got some upside targets. We're still bearish below the cloud though, and of course this 215 level is now the level to watch on Natty. Looking at emissions, we were looking stronger this morning. We do have these targets of 94, 20 and 96, but we've got this new target kicking in. It's starting to look a little bit less clear today, and you've got to watch those 1 minute targets. When they all line up, that's when you know things are looking better. We were neutral on gas prices this morning. We had some upside targets and downside targets, that mixed picture below the cloud, and we're seeing TTF now down 1%, MBP down 1.6%, so we're seeing that lower. And of course, German power is the one that we talked about. Really interesting that this 130 level on the Cal 24 is really quite clear support now, but we hit 145 this morning. That was just a move too far for the market. We do have targets to the upside, but now we're getting downside targets kicking in, so that's going to be really quite key. So we're pushing back in this range now, 130, 145. That's the levels to watch if you're trading power. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. We made it through the week. Let's hope for a quieter week next week. Happy charting. Bye for now.